Call the meeting to order.
Oh,
Please call the roll.
I think I need to fix audio real fast. Think that should be, no. All right, let's try that. Okay. That should be better. Thank you.
Councilmember Hickman. Councilmember Clifford. Councilmember McCarthy.
President.
Councilmember Farman.
Here.
Councilmember Sullivan. Councilmember Fiskett. Mayor Riley.
Here.
There are 6 members present.
Thank you. Now I'd like to call stand and pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. To the United States, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Everyone, you should have the agenda. With the committee, changes to the agenda that you saw.
Yes, we're not ready yet to approve the contract for the construction of the sidewalk along Highway 6. And I'm forgotten.
So, and I have a motion to remove that from the agenda. So. All right. Any other changes to the agenda? So the motion is to approve the agenda with the.
One more, sir.
Yeah.
Do we need a second or?
Is there a second? All right, it's been moved to seconded. Is there any discussion? All right. So we're going to be voting on whether to approve the agenda as stated with the removal of resolution 2025-22, which will be addressed at a later meeting. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Next item is communications to council, and this is an opportunity for anyone from the public to come and speak to council. We'd ask that if you're going to address the issue of the second reading of the ordinance 2025-0-11, you speak during that portion. But any other topic is fair game. Would anyone like to speak? Anyone online like to speak? Betty, anyone?
No.
See no one at the podium and no one online. At that point, I will close communications to council. And now we move to the consent agenda. And does anyone have anything they'd like to remove from the consent agenda? And can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? So, motion second, moved and seconded, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. The next item is consideration of ordinance 2025-0-11. And will the clerk please read the title and the subject matter into the record.
Ordinance 2025-0-11, ordinance of Town Council of the Town of Keystone, Colorado, amending ordinance 2024-0-04, regulating the licensing of the distribution and sale of tobacco products to prohibit the sale of flavored vape products, adopting a regulation on the unlawful sale to minors and establishing penalties thereof.
And at this meeting, we're gonna be having a public hearing. On the consideration of ordinance 2025-0-11 regarding regulated licensing and distribution of tobacco products. Following the procedures we're gonna have. First, I will open the public hearing, then we'll hear a report from the town manager, followed by questions from council members. Then we'll take public comment on the ordinance. Following public comment, the council will be asked if they have any additional questions for staff. And then the public hearing will be closed and the council will deliberate. So at this point, I would like to open the public hearing and ask for an introductory presentation by the town manager.
And I will pass this on to our town attorney, Jennifer Manson, drafts an ordinance.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, Jennifer Madsen, town attorney. This ordinance has been before town council on several occasions. It was discussed in work session on May 13th and May 27th. And we have this ordinance in front of council at a regular meeting on June 10th for first reading, and it was approved on first reading. Essentially what this ordinance does, it amends the town's tobacco licensing regulations, and the amendment is for a flavored vape ban and a coupon ban for the current regulations. There's also additional changes, and that is a tiered structure for presumptive penalties for violation of the sale of tobacco products to individuals under the minimum legal sales age of 21. Those presumptive penalties are related to two violations that occur in a rolling 3-year period. In addition, town council also added a provision for a local municipal offense for the unlawful sale or distribution of tobacco to individuals under the age of 21. And the reason for that is to really give more discretion for the prosecutor, town prosecutor, and the judge in terms of penalties and fines and no deferred judgments for those types of offenses. I'm sorry.
18.
It's 21. Yeah. When this ordinance was before council last week, there was one amendment to the ordinance, and that is that the effective date for the licensing changes will be January 1, and that is consistent with all of the other communities in Suffolk County that are imposing these similar restrictions. So that's a high-level overview, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions to share? Councilmember, take it over.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I had a little bit of trouble following along the recording last time. I'm trying to get myself back up to speed. I know we had talked about at some point allowing for the sale of flavored pouches such as a Zen product. Is that still considered in this ban? So the sale of flavored pouches is not considered in the ban, but all vape devices. Okay,
Any other questions to staff?
thank you.
Councilmember Kerr.
So the ordinance outlines how compliance checks could be made, but town manager, I wonder if you have had a discussion yet with the Keystone Police Force about how they actually carry out compliance checks that are that support the tobacco sales laws that are already on books.
That's the how we got in the past. We have had discussions and they'll continue to use the same procedures incorporated with their the county cessation department to basically what they'll do is for underage, they send underage people to buy it. And they will, as when they walk in the stores, to see what vape products they are. And our police are already circulating among our businesses and walking in the stores. So
What's a year? How often does this happen?
well, they're in the stores often to see if they're selling illegal products. And they do fairly regular underage checks. For a while. It's not necessarily scheduled.
I guess my question is, can we, with our new police force, make it clear that this is a priority? And other than just stopping by when a kid may or may not be there.
That's an even easier question to answer than how do they do it? It's yes, we can make sure they do it stringent.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilman Leon.
Building off of what Councilwoman heard, I had the indication when, our police chief was here that they have challenges with getting, participants for these, programs. Have you gotten an indication from our police force that these, audits at a more frequent pace than what they currently exist at would be a problem?
Well, anytime you're spending extra resources on something, we're taking away from somewhere else. So the question is, of what priority do we want to place on the more stringent inspections? And I guess, to me, this is a wider discussion, not necessarily related to this, that we should bring the chief in and talk about all sorts of priorities and goals that the council has for enforcement.
Thank you.
Councilmember Kirk.
One more for the town clerk. How many tobacco licenses do we actually have at this time?
4.
And do you know well enough to name them so we know who we're affecting? Sorry, I should be giving you a heads up.
Gateway and Grapevine, I believe is what they changed their name to, the liquor store. They also have a tobacco license, Keystone Grocers, and oh, Curious and Curiosities, yeah.
It's the Curious and Curiosity River Run, not the one in Lakeside.
They're on the same.
They're run by the state. I would say owner. It's the grocery that's located in Gateway. It's the liquor store that's located in Mountain View Plaza, and it's the gas station, grocery, liquor store located on Tennisville Road. Councilmember Hayden.
Thank you. This is for staff. Have any of these, four licensees that you know of shared a negative outlook on prospective sale volumes associated with this, ordinance? And if so, is there any details on the volume of that, decrease or negative impact?
And I'll pass this on to the mayor and the mayor pro tem.
The answer is yes. That was provided to council in several work sessions in the past. Keystone Grocery, over at Gateway Plaza, believes this, they put them on the edge of closing down during shoulder season versus being available year round. The total sales decreased, annual sales decreased, I think by the end of the year, it'd be about 8%. And the tobacco sales, the vape sales, was reduced the volume by about 50. And if we didn't get, now I asked Mayor Pro Tem, we may have talked to others as well. I know that Curious and Curiosity has a very low volume of vape sales. In talking to their owner, the liquor store has a moderate amount, but not nearly as much as Keystone Grocery. And, the gas station sells, I have no indication of the volume. Anything on this?
Well, the only other thing is that their concern was also the upsell.
Yeah.
They find that a lot of people come up to speed, go, looking for some smokes or something, and then they end up buying other products, and there's like a 30 to 40% upsell. As I was told.
So
If
what,
I may comment though, if these business owners who gave those numbers at the time did not realize the situation throughout the county, it primarily that city market will no longer sell any tobacco products.
so when they were aware now, just like talked to like. So if I'm, and then there's one comment, so thank you so much for that information. If I'm hearing that correctly, there is anticipated to be significant impact to sales for some of these locations.
At least one location. I don't believe Cures for Curiosity saw it as a significant impact. The reason they don't sell tobacco products in Lakeside Village is they don't make enough of it to pay for the license.
Gotcha.
Keystone Grocery, yeah, he saw a big impact of the, and like I said, the liquor store in Gateway saw a moderate impact. But he did not indicate that it would cause him not to feel struck entirely.
Thank you very much.
Councilmember Kirk.
It could manager currently something horrible, but, you brought my attention back to the fact that when we first started discussing this some time ago, there was a, wave of interest throughout the county. Can you update us on which municipalities did or did not pass a similar ordinance?
All of them did, all of them that had tobacco sales, except for the county.
The county did not.
County did not. So the county has, trying to think of their tobacco places, the closest one is the liquor store in Summit Cove. There's one on Wilderness, I believe a couple out at Copper Mountain. Sure, if there's one, or Farmer's Corner.
Any other questions for staff?
Thank you. Building on that with the county, I know their initial indication was that there was legal reasons not to approve this. Has that changed at all to your understanding or knowledge?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff? In that case, I will, ask for public comment. Again, I would ask you to please step up to the podium or raise your hands if you're online. You'll be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. And when it's your turn to speak, please say your name and where you live, own, or work. And either the council or the manager will answer questions or respond to your comments during the public comment period.
My name is Josie Burnett, and I live in Breckenridge, but I go to school at the high school. I'm a rising senior at Summit High School, and I'm here on behalf of student leadership and out of a concern I have for my classmates. At Summit High School, many of my classmates use flavored vapes regularly. The disgustingly sweet chemicals, flavors permeate our hallways and bathrooms. But it doesn't just happen in the high school. It happens when kids go home, when kids go out to hang out with their friends. And we all know how dangerous this can be for students' future health. According to the 2024 National Youth Tobacco Survey, over 40% of high school e-cigarette users vaped at least 20 days a month, and nearly 30% reported vaping every day. Nearly 90% of youth e-cigarette users use only flavored products, with fruit, candy, desserts, and other sweets. The reality of its prevalence means that students turn to vaping as a coping mechanism, destroying themselves, their relationships, and at worst, their futures. I have witnessed this tragedy firsthand in friends, and I feel powerless because I cannot force you to quit vaping. You have to make that choice yourself. But as a town council, you have the ability to stop students from ever beginning the cycle. To be quite frank, there's no one to blame but the tobacco industry and our own community. While I do agree it's students' responsibility to know right from wrong, our community can make that choice easier by ending the sale of flavored vape products. I urge the passage of this ban because I've seen firsthand how devastating vaping is. Not only that, but I have worked firsthand at the high school to try and lower usage within my peers. And the answer I have come to is that the community needs to be held accountable and stop the cycle. I'm asking for your support right now because we're not doing enough to keep our future generations safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak?
I'll speak, yeah. I don't know if Amy, you're gonna wanna speak, but, I brought some products. I don't know if you've seen these, you may have seen these last time, but I would encourage you to take a look at them and smell them if you haven't before. I think they work really nice, like if these are what the kids are largely using. Okay. And this one. Good evening. My name is Jody Bradkey. I'm the regional director with the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids. I have been working on local and state policy in the state of Colorado for over 23 years. So happy to answer any state, federal, or local questions that you may have that you've been asking along the way. And I apologize for missing the first work session, but I did have the opportunity to watch it online. First, I just want to thank you for your important work to protect Keystone's kids from the potential of a lifelong addiction to tobacco. There are over 400 municipalities across the country that have passed similar ordinances, including 12 here in Colorado, for the most recent being here in Summit County. And I know during the work session, there's a lot of questions about adult choice and adult freedom. So I just want to highlight a couple quick points for you to think about as you think about this ordinance and this policy change. 95% of adult users start before the age of 21 and 99% start before the age of 26. Adult users initiate their use with a flavored product at the age of 12, 13, or 14. Nicotine is physiologically as addictive as heroin. And when they initiate use at such a young age, some of these new products on the market, which are circulating now, have the equivalent amount of nicotine as 200 cigarettes. A lot of our kids are using 1 or 2 pods a day or 1 to 2 devices a day. Addiction is not a choice. These are adults that want to quit. They look back on their decision and wish they could reverse it. It takes an average user 6 to 8 times to be able to do that successfully. And most of our tobacco users support the work you're doing here tonight. Because they don't want their kids or their grandkids to make the same decision they did. And flavor bans work. They're efficacious, and importantly, they keep the kids of today from becoming the addicted adults of tomorrow. I want to just address a couple points or questions you had earlier. I'm switching up my talking points because you raised them, and I want you to have correct data. And talking about business impacts, we have 12 businesses or 12 cities that have passed these policies to date in Colorado, and to date, none have gone out of business and none have demonstrated any economic harm, including those that have a license fee of $2,000 where their primary inventory is 85% tobacco products. One thing I also wanted to share with you is that the county does not have authority to pass these policies, and the 2 county attorneys come from Pitkin and Eagle are the ones that attempted to partner and work on state legislation that would have changed that, and that did not successfully pass this last legislative session. So currently counties cannot pass these policy changes. That applies to cities only at this point in time. One thing I just want to also point out is that our kids are reporting they use flavors, and the Surgeon General report that came out last year talks about partial bans and partial bans being ineffective. The products we passed around, when we do partial bans, what we see from the data is 500% to 600% increases as kids migrate from one product to the other. So right now, kids are using vaping devices. 86% of the market is currently illegal. But we know when we remove one product from the market, kids simply migrate to the next. And right now, the evolution of products are the Zyn pouches. We're seeing the rates double and triple amongst our kids. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions you have related to any of the state level, county or local policies. I worked on most of them over the years. And just want to thank you for your work.
Please wrap up.
Yep, but I just want to thank you for your work. Hi, I'm Amy Weinman, Director of Summit County Public Health. And I just wanted to thank you for taking some steps to decrease the access to our youth. I really commend you on that and being partners within our whole community. It doesn't take a village. We hear that and say that often, but it is true that it does. And I just want to say thank you for that. One question came up earlier about compliance checks. We do 2 checks a year. That's what we in the public health department help with the jurisdictions doing in terms of the underage operations is what we commit to. So I just wanted to let you know that and clarify that for you all.
Thank you. Is there any public comment online? No? Anyone else? I guess everyone else has spoken. So at this point, I will close the public comment period and ask the council if they have any more questions of staff. One question I have, and it was caused by a comment that was made during public comment, but we are not including in this ordinance a ban on acidic products.
And we're not just flavored.
Just flavor. And the question is, it's also a, it's also a stepping stone, as indicated by the comments we heard. Is that something, do you have any information to back that up or not, that you see as we develop this?
I will rely on the public health people and believe that it is a stepping stone. Well, I don't know if it's a stepping stone, actually. It's certainly a step. I don't know that people go from Zyn to other nicotine products. And I do know that in our workshop discussions, at this point, other than the physiological impacts of nicotine alone, I don't believe we asked questions earlier. They were not able to identify any particular danger of Zyn above and beyond the known impacts of nicotine. Unlike cigarette smoking, where there are numerous secondary effects, and I believe that's what the council chose to.
So in other words, I think what you're saying is, while Zyn products may contain nicotine and may be addictive, as indicated by the testimony, that could lead a youth or anyone to then move into a harmful health.
Yeah,
Any product that's harmful health.
and Zyn products, well, Zyn products are harmful because there are known harms from nicotine use alone. But they're a relatively new product. I don't believe there's been a lot of investigation.
Thank you. The other council member Barnett.
2 questions following up on that. One, can you refresh my memory as to whether Zyn has a much higher level of nicotine in it, making it much more addictive?
It is a super high level.
Thank you. And the other municipalities that all went ahead and passed similar legislation, their legislation ban Zyn and blood products.
Yes, it did.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hagan.
Thank you. Mr. Manager, do you recall, or can you provide any clarity on, these products availability online, and if we were told that those would still be available for purchase and shipment to our
They are illegal to sell to minors, any children anywhere, and it would be illegal to sell here. But that being said, you can get anything.
So what if I'm hearing that correctly, if a minor were to get one of these products, regardless of if it is banned or not, it would offend illegal access?
Correct.
Okay,
If they ship it here, it would be illegal.
okay, thank you.
And if they had access from anywhere. It was the illegal access. All right. Any other questions for staff? All right, hearing no further questions from staff. I'll declare the public hearing closed, and now the council will deliberate on the second reading of the ordinance. Council, have any comments? Councilmember Higgins.
Thank you. Those products that were passed around today, scary how good this, right? I mean, it's clear to me what some of those are meant to taste like, right? Candy. I still, I think back to where we've had this discussion multiple times, and I think that, I think everyone here would fully agree that banning those flavored vapes, is critical. And I, again, would fully support that. I still stand, by the fact that I think that consenting adults that are choosing to use flavored zips that are not impacting the public areas or, adverse health effects for other people should still be allowed to do that. And should still be able to approach her. I think what we've really identified here is two issues. The availability of products, that are targeted towards children and the compliance with them, right? And compliance with the laws for that. And there's clearly, if this is such a, high usage in young people, there's clearly a compliance issue, right? If people are getting access to these as 12, and using them and becoming addicted before they're even legally allowed to have access to this product. So there's clearly an access issue. And I think we've done some steps to address that. And I think that, the manager has definitely heard us in the sense that we would like more compliance checks. But again, I still stand by that consenting adults that would like to use a product that does not impact other people, i.e. Zyn or similar pouches, should still be able to use that product if they would like.
Councilmember Clark.
Kind of like a broken record on this. While I appreciate the thought and the process or people's rights, I think we have to always circle back to the health issue on it. I think given the information tonight about Zen, I think that should be on our radar. I think we agreed to take an incremental approach to this and not do a complete ban. So I think it's wise of us to kind of see what's happening in our neighboring towns, what's happening in our own town. And like I say, I think given the discussion about the switching of products, because there's still that addiction, and now they're just trying to find something to fill that addiction. So I would hope that the council would circle back and kind of monitor and have a future discussion that maybe Zen is something we need to bring before us.
I absolutely respect, Councilmember Aguilar's views as well as Councilmember Martin's. I think that when you look at Zen, it's so dangerous because it's less easy to see someone who's not smoking, so kids can see better. And it's so much more addictive because of the massive amount of nicotine. And I have some concerns about the incremental approach. The question is, look at what our neighbor communities are doing, when we see what they're all doing. And we know what the county would do if it could, but it can't, but it might. But, you know, that's not where we are. What we do know is that we've heard voices more than once say, my goodness, won't someone think of the business income from selling these highly addictive products? Well, what happens when that income goes up because the sales are here and not elsewhere? That's going to make it hard to be incremental. Um, I think that's a big concern I have around this. And so I would ask you all to consider whether we not deviate from what everyone else is doing, have a consistent policy with our fellow municipalities across the county. Folks can still legally purchase this if they're of age. They can still use it. But what we do is make it harder for all the children who come here to ski, whether they're from here, whether they're from visiting here from elsewhere, make it harder for them to say, hey, tourist guy, I'll give you $50 to go buy me a pouch. My buddy there, they try it. They get a massive dose of nicotine with their heart for life. I'd like to see that be something that can be done about it.
Are there any other comments? Starting with the, well, Councilmember Kerr.
I was going to move to approve.
You have the floor.
As a council, we typically give a lot of discussion to anything that's going to affect our community, this is no exception. The problem presented to us is the access for minors to flavored vape products that are in our county schools and that are throughout the county. We can't be blind to the fact that flavored vapes are specifically designed to attract minors and reverse all the progress that has been made for decades to reduce tobacco use. However, a remedy does exist that we have not yet fully tested. The ordinance at hand includes a section on penalties for sales to minors. What is yet to be determined is how our new Dillon Keystone Police Department, how well they will enforce compliance. So the choice appears to be to divert police effort from other purposes to regularly but randomly test compliance in our few tobacco licensed establishments. And if we believe that barring minor access to tobacco is worth interfering with legal retail operations, then it is certainly worth additional attention to compliance policing.
Councilmember Stoll.
I move to approve 2025 011 and then 134 004.
Second. Been moved and seconded. I would like to move to include Zin as a potential ban, as a ban in the ordinance.
Second.
Now we're
If before we go on, can we consult with our attorney on the difficulty or not
Yeah.
difficulty?
Well, I mean, I would have to draft a definition of what that is. So it can be done, but it wouldn't be anything you would see. So nobody else would be able to see it before it's added in.
Could we use the original definition from the draft legislation that was?
No, because the original definition included more than just the original definition was all flavored products.
I think what we're talking, then, could I make a friendly amendment to my amendment? And that would be that the ban would include all flavored products. Would that be acceptable?
I just don't understand. We discussed this more.
Yeah. Yes. Sorry, made the.
Any member can object to a friendly amendment.
Okay. And I would like to move that we change the ban to all flavored products as all of the other towns in Southern County have done.
Second.
Moved in seconds. Now we can discuss the amendment. Councilmember Hagan.
I think we spent a lot of time on coming to a consensus, and the reason we work in work sessions for so long is to come to a consensus. through multiple iterations, and multiple avenues. And I think that we have agreed with this, well, to get to this point, we've agreed with this, approach where we would ban certain aspects of it, review it, and then look at further bans. I think, to be quite blunt, I think that adding this now at the ninth inning is kind of pulling the wool over the eyes. And I don't think that this is in good spirit with what we're intended to do with this.
The purpose of the second reading is just that, to reconsider and to make any changes.
And that's what I'm trying to say, is I think that we ironed it out ahead of time to get coming here with the consensus, and I think that there's a very real possibility that we look at all flavor bans in the future, but I would not be in support of that right now.
Councilmember, all right,
I see Councilmember Hankin's point in the good faith, development of the work that you've done. I think the question one might ask is what, if anything, has changed in the interim? We could say we've increased our understanding, but you could also say that we can see what the rest of the municipalities have done. Because they've moved these into place in the interim. And so I think that's something that bears looking at, and should we be the exception?
Should we just do what everything else or every other town does? Because I thought we became a town to be our own deciding body.
Well, I agree with you, but what makes it something that works for all of the other municipalities, but Keystone is to be the place that sells these products? But what's the argument for us? Why do we need to sell these products that are targeted?
Well, I would argue the same thing if I was in the other towns' councils, and I think that they are overreaching on the civil liberties of those citizens. And I would advocate the same thing if I was in Dillon. I would advocate the same thing if I was in Bristol. And good for them for deciding that that's what they'd like to do. I think that public health is a very important aspect, and we are definitely hitting a significant impact on public health here in the positive. But again, people that are deciding to do a product that impacts themselves, right, is their decision. We're not outlawing liquor next, which also leads to impacts on the community. We're not gonna outlaw saturated fat next. We're not gonna outlaw fast food next, right? Like, I think that there is a million different things we could look at that are unhealthy for us that we're not talking about. What we're talking about is the impact on other people, right? We're talking about the impact on, at least I am, right? I'm talking about the impact on other people. And vapes are so easy to conceal in these doors and impact other people non-consensually. And that's the problem for me.
my concern is this ordinance was originally, and in my view, have changed to this. This ordinance was originally considered and brought forward by the health department. Given the accessibility of these products to you. And as we've heard today, and I was reminded during the public comment period today, of the impact of the Zyn products as being a major contributor to tobacco use and for youth going forward, that it almost seems hypocritical to me, if we're gonna make a ban, to only ban one piece of the major stepping stone and not. That was your stuff.
My, concurrence with, my fellow councilman here, and the idea that we talked about earlier of a look back, I'm fully in favor of that, but at this time, I would not, support the amended, ordinance.
The other comments? Councilmember Hagan.
Thank you. I personally, and I've shared this before, I personally don't use tobacco products and I think that they're vile, right? But, those products that were passed around smell like candy, right? They smell like candy. And my understanding of the Zins is that they're not that targeted towards children, right? I know plenty of adults that enjoy that. And there will always be a case where an underage person uses this, right? But I think that, again, our issue is compliance and our issue is this access. And I remember during one of the initial conversations, we were told that you could get any shipped to your home. There's 34, I believe, for 24 approved products from the FDA, and there's thousands on the market, right? The issue is not necessarily getting them, because they're still gonna find a way to get them, which is unfortunate. But what we're really talking about is restricting our adults' ability to do this. And that's what I really don't.
I believe, as I remember the initial discussion. You're gonna find I'm schizophrenic. I will admit that in front. That Zyn products are as much or more of a stepping stone than for the youth than the vape products, yes. But Zyn products are also very easy, it's even easier to disguise the youth. And I remember the early discussions when the health department first talked to us. And in fact, council member Thiston talked about it, about how her daughter tells her kids that are using Zyn products all day in class because it's available. So I just, my challenge is that if you're really going after the initial impact of the product on children, that I find it difficult to separate out this Zyn product from the vape product because of the potential addictive piece. Councilmember Hayden.
What happened in the 70s? How did people get addicted in 1970? Was there vape products or Zins back then?
Okay.
Well, I asked that legitimately, right? Like,
There was some targeted advertising against children.
there's still gonna be the addictive nature of this product, whether we ban certain aspects or not. Certain aspects certainly make it easier, right? But they were still smoking back in the 70s. They were still smoking in the 90s. You're still smoking in the early 2000s. And people get addicted then and smoke for the rest of their life, right? Hey, there's gonna be the next thing that comes out and targets the children. And again, restricting our legal adults' ability for access to things, I don't think is the right answer.
Wouldn't you have the same argument restricting legal adult rights to a vape product?
I would, but I think and back to my point, I think that we've spent many hours for a compromise. And a compromise is when everyone doesn't leave happy, or there's some degree to that, right? And I think that the fact that we have come to a compromise that from my perspective, limits in the right areas and limits to the public health and not to one's personal health.
Councilmember Clement, then after this, can we go to call for vote?
Sure. Well, we'll see what you think after I say this, because I'm about to complicate it slightly. First, let me say that I find Councilmember Hageno's view and ethics on this extremely consistent, and I respect it. In fact, we're almost in agreement. That's just on a minor point here. So let me muddy the waters of this society, because you make a point that adults do use it. And not all of it is targeted at kids. And I certainly know some adults who switch from smoking cigarettes to Zyn. Not all Zins are flavored. They think they're cool and they're chill with unflavored stuff. So what if we ban flavored pouches that are targeted at children and not the unflavored?
That's the amendment.
Okay. So given that we've clarified that point, how do you feel?
And Mr. Yes, and I'll be very short with this answer. I think that the target for the flavored vapes is astronomically more of a target than the flavors for the Zyn. And you're talking thousands of percents more, right? Like, I forget the name of that product. It was like Cool Blue or something, right? It was very much a candy flavor. Versus the Zins, my understanding is that they're not as targeted. Mr. Mayor, can you read the flavor on that by any chance? Citrus. That's not candied. That's just my 30 seconds is I think that the Zyn is a lot less targeted.
The call for vote,
I also just, unless somebody is gonna say anything else, I think it would be important just to clarify for the record what my understanding of this motion to amend is, and that would be to add the original definition that we had in the ordinance, from the first reading. I think that was maybe May, not first reading, but from the first time this appeared at work session on May 13th. And flavored tobacco products, means any one of the following, and if you'll indulge me, I'll read the whole, all of the definition. One is any tobacco product that contains the taste or smell other than the taste or smell of tobacco that is distinguishable by any ordinary consumer, either prior to or during the consumption of the product, including but not limited to any taste or smell relating to chocolate, cocoa, menthol, mint, wintergreen, vanilla, honey, fruit, or any candy, dessert, alcoholic beverage, herb, or spice. Or any tobacco product that imparts a cooling or numbing sensation distinguishable by an ordinary consumer, either prior to or during the consumption of such tobacco product, or any public statement or claim, whether express or implied, made or disseminated by the manufacturer or retailer of a licensed product, or by a person authorized or permitted by the manufacturer to make or disseminate public statements concerning such products, that the product has or produces a taste or smell other than a taste or smell of tobacco, or a cooling or numbing sensation, will constitute preemptive evidence that the product is a flavored product. Presumptive evidence may include, but is not limited to, use of the terms such as cool, chill, ice, fresh, arctic, or frost to describe the product.
At this point, I'll call for a vote. Would clerk please call the roll?
And
This is
Just the amendment
to return to that definition.
for that, return to that definition.
Councilmember Fagan.
Disapprove.
Councilmember Kurt.
Disapprove.
Councilmember Martin.
approved.
Councilmember Cormet.
Approved.
Councilmember Sullivan.
Disapprove.
Mayor Riley.
Approved.
There are 3 votes to approve and 3 votes to disapprove.
Motion is failed. So now we're back to the original, motion to approve the ordinance as currently written. Is there any discussion on that? Councilmember Hagan.
I love it, let's approve it.
Councilmember Barnett.
I appreciated the back and forth over the amendment. And I think that what is before us is still a great thing for the health of our community and its members. I think we're attacking the product that has the largest effect on those who don't choose or take it, as Councilmember Hagan was pointed out. And it is one avenue of attraction into this addiction. And then the other thing I think we're doing that I don't know that in the other communities take the step to do is to take our tolerances on when these things go from our retailers to children who should not have these addictive products. So I think we should see a victory here for
Councilmember Kirk.
I don't love this ordinance. However, it is a hard-fought compromise. It will make a difference. We had the opportunity to look at it again in a year. And my problem is I agree with my fellow councilman hanging out about taking away legally available products for adults. But I'm willing to make this compromise on behalf of kids and see what we can do. And as you have so eloquently just described, is the second part of this that could be the real distinction. Thank you.
You have comments? I'm just talking about my schizophrenic side. Well, I believe, personally, I believe that this ordinance would take significant steps in on the enforcement side. I think that was absolutely critical, and something no one else is doing in the county, and I think it's taking that step is very important. I abhor tobacco products. I don't use tobacco products. I would strongly support the state ban. I would strongly support the national ban on tobacco products. What I'm caught with here is I don't believe that this ban will have any impact on access of these products for you. And that's my concern. And by putting this ban in place, what we're going to do is potentially have a severe impact on at least one of our retailers, who is one of the very few retailers in this town that is open 7 days a week. And so consequently, if Summit County had a ban, I could probably be convinced, but I don't believe that as we're currently structured, that this ban will have any impact on access to access. So consequently, I'll be voting against the ordinance while I voted for the total ban. I'll be voting against the ordinance for those reasons because of the impact on the retailers. And frankly, I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I hope that when we do this review in November of next year, that we will see a significant impact in use of tobacco products by our youth. And that I'll be the first to admit I was incorrect. But because I don't see that it's happening, I can't look favorably. Councilmember Hagan.
Thank you. I think, Mr. Mayor, your point, and again, we've spent hours and hours talking about this. I think your point that access will be minimally changed is very well taken, with the closest store being 1 mile down the road. That will still have it, and that we have been presented numerous times that these products can be shipped directly to homes. I still very much agree with the comments made by Councilwoman Kerr and Councilman Permit, that these, in my opinion, the real impact will be from the improvement of the enforcement of it. And I really hope to see some improvement there for that. So.
Are there any other comments? Any questions?
I think we have a motion on the floor, so.
Yeah, what we have to do is call the question. All right. In that case, I'd like to ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Kirk.
Approved.
Councilmember Martin.
Approved.
Councilmember Cormet.
Approved.
Councilmember Sullivan.
Approved.
Councilmember Hagnow.
Approved.
Mayor Riley.
Disapproved.
There are 5 votes to approve and 1 vote to disapprove.
The next item on our agenda is first reading of ordinance 2025-0-12, ordinance of the town council of the town of Keystone, Colorado, adopting regulations related to violations against government and public officials, and turn it over to the town manager.
And once again, I will pass this on to our town attorney, Jennifer Manson, who wrote this ordinance for us.
Good evening, and council members. This ordinance is on first reading. It was before you at the last meeting in June during a work session. Essentially, what this ordinance does is proposes regulations aimed at protecting government operations, public safety personnel, and the public from interference, impersonation, or false reporting. There are, I believe, 5 different sections to this ordinance, 5 different offenses: obstructing government operations, impersonating a peace officer, obstructing a peace officer or firefighter, false reporting to authorities, and failure to assist a police officer. These regulations are really consistent with state law. When I brought these forward to you last week, there were some questions about some wordsmithing. I did have a conversation with the town's prosecutor, Mark Burgert, about the ordinance, and he agreed the language is consistent with state law. It's been tested in the courts, and there are reasons for the exceptions to the violations. So happy to answer any questions that you have, and just wanted to share that additional information.
Councilor, just a comment. Thank you for doing that follow-up, because there was a lot of confusion about, March person getting in the way. And so I appreciate you doing that follow-up. But we thought that.
Councilmember Hayden.
Thank you. I just want to double check on understanding this, and this is kind of shocking to me, right? So currently, as we stand today, there's nothing stopping me in the town of Keystone from throwing blue lights on my car and going around and pretending to be a police officer.
There's state law that prohibits that, so,
Okay.
you could be charged under state law.
So why is there a need for this in addition to state law?
State law would have to be enforced by our district attorney and county district court, who might not choose to do so when we as a town would want to enforce. In certain situations, this gives us the authority to take it to municipal court. If we find that the district attorney was not enforce the state law.
Okay. Has there been concerns about that? Like, I'm trying to be blunt, I'm trying to understand why we're spending time with this right now.
Yes.
So there's concerns.
Yes, we need the ability to say what the law is in our own town. And we need the ability to drive the enforcement of those laws in our own town. By not adopting this, we don't have the ability to force the district attorney to take someone to court. We can tell our town prosecutor to take it to court. We can tell our police officer to issue the citation.
Okay. And there's multiple other things that are like this though, right? Like where it is in the district court's perspective illegal, but we haven't created a town code against it.
Well, in fact, you just praised the last one, which had to do with nicotine sales to minors. Where we made this was that? Yeah, it was nicotine sales to minors. We made a municipal offense too, because we have a driving concern that we want this enforced. And we want our town to be able to say that and actually make it happen.
Okay, so is there, so there's concern right now about impersonations happening?
There's all sorts of things dealt with. This is really vital for us.
Okay. Well, my second part of the question is, community organizations that are currently, in the community. The one that comes to mind is Keystone Public Safety, which is a Vail Resort, sponsored and, operated, quasi-emergency service, that has and does provide services for many, aspects of town. Would that fall under impersonating? Because some of the verbiage here, insignia, representing themselves as a public official, I could easily see how KPS would fall under that.
No, they would never fall under that. Impersonating the public official would mean they are impersonating the public official, not dressed as a private security force.
Okay.
They don't enforce laws, they do enforce HOA rules and issues like that.
Yeah,
They don't even do that, so.
But I guess my question is, knowing how they dress now, knowing what their vehicles look like, they would not be subject to this regulation.
There are private security, what's there, thousands of those in the country.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No other questions? Can I have a motion? All right.
I move to approve on first reading ordinance 2025-0-12 and ordinance adopting regulations related to violations against the government and public officials.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Martin,
Approve.
Councilmember Cormet,
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Approve.
Councilmember Bagnow,
Approved.
Councilmember Kerr,
Approve.
Mayor Riley.
Approved.
There are 6 votes to approve.
Next item on the agenda is resolution 2025-21. Resolution of the town council of the town of Keystone, Colorado, accepting a gift from Lodge LLC. Mr. Town Manager?
And even though our town attorney wrote this one, I think I can sum it up pretty quickly here. We adopted a donation policy recently, and surprise, surprise, we received our first donation, a $122,500 check dedicated to construction of phase 1 of the Highway 6 pathways. That's the Brentwood sidewalk. The donation came from Lodge LLC. They are the developers of the Brentwood condominiums. In order to accept this gift, the policy requires that because of the size of the gift, the council adopt a resolution to accept this. Next meeting, we'll be bringing a contract to construct the sidewalk. If the sidewalk is not constructed, this gift is strictly limited to use of phase 1 of the pathway. So if that is not constructed, the gift will have to be returned to the donor. And am I missing anything?
Any questions from council? Councilmember Bagnow.
Thank you. I know we had initially, or not initially, but one of the previous conversations around this project talked about the possibility of needing to pay, or at least a portion of Lodge LLC's contribution being the design work that they provided.
That they already provided, this is their cash number.
This is the cap. Okay, so those are 2 separate aspects, and this is going to be for us to use for whatever the RFPs come back as.
The construction costs.
Great, thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments? Councilor Sullivan. Sorry, Councilor Sullivan moved to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved to second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. And all those in favor, please raise your hand. Give a vote of 6-0 in favor. The resolution has been passed. Next item on the agenda is planning matters. Is there anything?
I would just like to very quickly announce that Jessica Hertzberg has joined our staff. In fact, I believe she is listening online, and I believe she's muted. But at any rate, she is on board, and she has worked for us for a day and a half, and we have made significant progress with regards to 1 or 2 projects with her on board. So very, very excited. We are going to transition back to helping SE Group put forward the master, or the comp plan, and also, implementation strategies, for our town. So those are the two big ticket items, along with, assistance with the connectivity plan, and, to teach Jessica the ropes of good planning. And keep her muted.
I don't believe Jessica could have had probably a better teacher than you. But, if Jessica had been here today, I would have made the following comment to her. You know, as a consultant, you get an opportunity to give a recommendation, come up with an action plan, you go out of town and you leave it for the folks that are left to implement. Jessica, welcome to Keystone, and now it's all yours to implement that implementation. And so you're gonna get both sides of this now, which I think will probably be an invaluable experience for you.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, is there anything else to talk? Any other comments or questions? All right. In that case, we'll go on to the report of the town manager and staff.
Okay, I'll start with departments. The police, it appears that this Friday at 12:01, we will be going into a stage 1 fire ban, throughout the county, actually throughout the area, and all the national forests. Our fire ordinance gives our police chief, the authority to declare a state 1 fire ban after the county does. The county approved their resolution, which will go into effect on this Friday. With the high winds we've had, lack of moisture, it's 4th of July weekend, it's kind of a no-brainer.
Mr. Manager, is there any plans to communicate out with any signage or anything for that?
Oh, yeah, we're working on variable message boards. We'll be sending it on, sending it out to our email list and posting them.
When do we have access to those variable message boards that are on?
Our chief has access to some variable.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Chief, in case you haven't noticed it, they've really had, regular presence in town, regular patrols, good presence at Bourbon and Bacon, until they got called away to, the lodge for a life safety issue. We're happy with the way they're integrating into the community, and I've heard, real good remarks from community members about our police department. So, down to the clerk, business license, are due by next week. The day after business license, we've been doing outreach already to those people who haven't gotten a business license that we know are operating businesses. The day after the business licenses are due, we will be sending out a solicitation email to all the emails we have for our business advisory committee. We're making progress on STRs. We'll have a report at our next meeting. And our clerk will be attending a 2-day emerging managers session. So that I can retire. Not immediately, but we're just done part of our clerk.
What you're saying, the council will soon have alternatives.
Council. Not before contracting negotiations. Finance department, we just received our draft audit, so we'll be presenting the final version after our finance director and I go through it either at the next meeting or the following meeting. We're in good shape.
Okay.
We're in good shape.
Yeah.
No, and as I mentioned earlier, our next meeting is going to be all about finance and budget. Casella is moving forward really quickly. We're hoping that this financial packet that was in your packet today will be the last time you see it in that form. Fingers crossed, and it's still And staff has started putting together our 2026 budget. So, community development, full steam ahead on the comp plan. We've got public meetings coming up, all sorts of stuff is happening. We also, thank you, Mr. Hirsch, we were awarded a fire mitigation grant
Oh,
by the county
Oh, the county.
for the historic property. And their
You're right.
Keystone did really well in the fire mitigation grant cycle. A lot of our HOAs applied, and we've done very well.
Yeah, I believe Alder's got a grant, Southern Street Estates got a grant, Southern Creek got a grant, St. John got a grant, which is tied, loosely tied to this one as well. And then the Vale's gonna do the mitigation on their property, am I correct or not?
No. Just on that, they'll cannot match.
Well, they didn't have a grant application.
Oh, that's right, and, you are correct. And, they're not gonna pursue. Budgetary issues, sir.
What's the value of the grant for us?
7,000 and change.
Were a lot of these grants that were awarded with support or information from the town?
Yes, and in coordination with Southern Fire, EMS, water and fire people.
Perfect. Yeah, the grants that, let's back up, to answer your question specifically. The grants that went to the Strong Futures Fund, which is where these came from, did not require coordination from the town.
No, thank you for that information. I'm more seeing if our, town provided value, to this application processes that provided
We
information.
were part of that process for approval.
We just, we coordinated with, Southern Fire and EMS for the application.
For the town grant.
That is
Yeah,
correct.
we're talking
Yes,
about the HOA grants. The HOA grants don't go
Okay, I
there.
apologize.
Sorry, I'm not trying to beat around the bush. And we provide a value or service to these HOAs, providing them information on it. So we can't give ourselves a little bit.
At the same time, they can ask.
Thank you.
Yes.
But I really setting it.
Public Works, we're finally getting all our signs up that we couldn't pound into our winter ground. The noise ordinance signs are coming from CDOT and they should be here in the very, very near future, along with our town limit signs. They'll be on the town limit signs. And let's see, we're working on reviewing our bids that came in. I've also sent our public works out, doing some beautification projects around the town to do some smaller parts. On to other news, public lands sale. It appears that the parliamentarian knocked that off the board. Senator Lee is talking about coming back with a public land sale like it will be limited to BLM land within 5 miles of the town. So as far as the county Keystone is concerned, we're safe.
As far as the bigger picture, that's still a concern.
And it's questionable whether even that will get through. It would take 60 votes to even get that through.
Okay.
So it's doubtful there will be any public land sales in the budget bill.
When I looked at the map this week of the lands that were included, it was surprising to me that as you looked at Keystone, basically all the Forest Service land around Keystone except Jonesville was included in the lands potentially could be for sale. And if you just think about the ramifications in this valley,
Literally land right
yeah,
behind the peninsula, Frisco Peninsula. Considered under, but thankfully that's off the table. See, last week we had our managers meeting, and now that everyone has finally approved the nicotine IGA, we're talking about coming forth with a new one. I'll give you details. It has to do with, funding of some of our bigger nonprofits for, elevated health and,
And
Building.
building hope. Thank you. Building hope, but well, more to come on that. And it was kind of driven by the fact that sales tax revenues will be going down to the tobacco. Which is a good thing. Summit County finally adopted their emergency operations plan. A little entertaining local governance for anyone who was paying attention to that. They're still working on the evacuation plan, and the chief is very deeply involved in that. In fact, today we talked to a good hour about various evacuation scenarios in Keystone.
Will the county, emergency operations plan become the base for our town? I don't know,
In ways, because
it's on your list, so.
yeah, there's, it won't be applicable in our town necessarily. It's a good guidance pressure. Many of our situations are multi-jurisdictional situations.
That's,
Yeah.
I don't see it away.
Yep. CML starts tomorrow, actually starts tonight. So I will, you'll all be able to see what I'm talking.
You're going,
I'm good.
John, Peggy, and Brady.
Okay, and, our law firm is hosting a reception for us when and where?
Tomorrow, 4:30 tomorrow, 4:30 at the hotel.
Alabama,
Yes,
4:30 or 5:30?
4:30.
The Keystone Resort had their cleanup day last Wednesday. We had staff participation in that and let them use all of our grabbers, and we got almost all of them back, which really shocks me, shocked them, I think. Let's see, we should be getting word on additional grants that we applied for in the next couple of weeks. One is the Parks and Wildlife Trash Can Grant, and the other is a destination blueprint from Office of Economic Development and International Trade. That would be the destination blueprint grant, similar in the way it's formed to the RTAP grant, except it's not students, it would actually be OED staffers who come in and would help us do baseline surveys on our tourism industry, and then a lot of community outreach on what we envision for our tourism industry, what our community envisions going forward. No money in this grant except they would pay for the community listening sessions stuff, but it would be pretty invaluable tool for us going forward. Let us wrap our head around where people are coming from and why they're coming here, what they want here. Let's see, NRO concerts are starting. We are co-sponsoring with KNC. The first one, these are all over at River Run. The first one is Thursday at 5 o'clock. We have a Saturday 10 a.m. concert, and then a Wednesday 4 p.m. concert. There are additional concerts at the end of July. And that's it for my manager's report this week, unless there are any questions.
any questions for that? Now, let's take a look at reports to the mayor and council members, anything to report?
Other matters.
Probably time to, talk with the council.
Yeah.
It's coming up on the 7th. We had limited attendance last time, so I don't think we have
like the word out. So hopefully we can, beat that up. So it's 7, 9 o'clock, and I'm looking for volunteers, 9 a.m., 7 Monday. If I find me, I'll do it.
I'll do it, but if somebody else doesn't.
It's all dictated on the schedule, I'll look at it and let you know, but that's how it was.
Okay. Well, and then Carol.
So we can definitely advertise it and.
Yes, yeah, true.
Okay.
And I think we'd be looking at an evening session in August if we're gonna go do the once a quarter idea.
Yeah. Something idea.
Steve loved it, so.
We also discussed inviting the police department. Is this one of those times where we want to reach out and see if they want to?
Bossy Fox.
For this first one, well, it's a killer one, but see if they have an interest in it.
Maybe let's do it this next coming one because they are our new force.
Is
Would you be willing to ask? They like to.
It's in my learning.
What do they say?
This is the served donuts.
No, so this will be a true test. Right?
I will ask. Okay. Yeah, let us know right away. That would really help. Yeah.
Yeah. Not that we're not.
I seem to remember we asked the chief when he was here about that potential, and it seemed like he was
Oh, that he wants it. It's just, will we be available?
Yeah.
We'll.
Where's the-
Would we like to approach the idea about possibly having them come to the next one as well, like it's a PM session?
Yeah.
Sure. Anything else?
Just an update on, they're interviewing for the new postmaster. That does, you know, we do not have a USPS postmaster, that's what. The Delaware, 2 weeks ago. Online, I'm sorry. And so it's frustrating because that they are needed to help us with approvals for placement of cluster boxes. So I've been in contact with the district manager's office in Denver and asked them to help facilitate. Because we do have, for example, the owners is shipped and it has arrived, their cluster boxes. So the process is moving forward, but we do need USPS help. So just wanted to.
Because they have to, the challenge in the past, when the delivery to cluster boxes, the initial approval was very dependent on who the local postmaster was. And so the first, about 4 years ago, the postmaster would say, over my dead body, are we going to do any more mails over in Keystone? And then this postmaster is, I want to expand it as much as we can. The challenge it presents for HOAs is, do you spend the money up front before you get, you know, what kind of the thoughts are with.
And it always seems to me that the critical issue is really less about the postmaster support, more about do they have enough staff?
But the process is a contract, so they then, when, volume goes up in a specific contract, they can hire that contract. And that goes up to bid.
It's different pots of money for staff for the post office.
That's
and delivery.
important.
But,
Thanks.
the, folks in Denver, well, barely here, they will, and, they're on it, and I'm hoping for positive results soon, so we'll see.
Is there any reason for the bill?
I know the bill, the first bill, this is separate, this is, the zip code program, to potentially have a zip code from the city. I know it got out of, I don't know exactly where it stands, I know it passed through the committee. And I believe it actually passed through the House, and was going over to the Senate, where they believed it was gonna be trouble. But right now, with what's going on, I'm doubting it's a high priority. So,
Thank
Anything else? The only thing I have is, as we, along the lines of talking to council, we are now starting to get requests for, someone to come and speak at HOA meetings. We have one on July 3rd at 2 p.m. for KNC. Right now, myself, Dan, and John are planning on attending on July 3rd. Silver Mill's coming up on July 5th at 2 p.m. And right now, I'm planning on attending. I would be more than happy to have anyone else attend with me.
Was that July 5th?
July 5th, 2 p.m.
I could do that before you.
Ooh, all right. And since you're doing the July 5th at 2, so we will be first on the agenda, by the way,
Perfect.
at 3.
We should sucker for this one.
We have CTIP Lodge is having their HOA meeting at the Dillon Town Hall.
Okay.
So we should have plenty of time to go over to that one on the 5th. And then the fourth request we've had is July 19th, which is, I believe, a Saturday at the Dillon Town Hall for Alpha, the newest active HOA.
Out of curiosity, why are they using the Dillon Town Hall?
They need a place to meet.
Would we be able to?
We have no policy on it and we don't own the facility.
But
Soon to
if
be
our
owned.
lease included this room.
It's a strange little situation.
Okay.
Okay.
It makes
It's not exclusive.
Okay.
So when we own the building,
Look forward to
it
that.
makes it much easier and that's what I think the policy would have to be put together. Say who could use it, under what conditions, and what the cost would be.
Insurance. Do you have a standard presentation like last year developed already for this?
We have a draft one that Dan and I have been working on, get that out to everybody, I got your comments there, and incorporated around the CML meeting, I'll get that out.
I can do the deal.
But,
I can do the also one.
Rick,
That's the one thing.
I'll oversee the grant,
19 July.
Yep.
At 1.
10 a.m. at Dillon Town Hall.
And I will definitely be attending check.
Yeah.
See what plan she has, and the other days. When she gets back and where I was in the budget.
And that's all I got. Thank you, Carol. Filling in. Is there anything else from the council?
I have another matter.
All right, then
That sounds all right.
we were, where's working? All right, now we're down to other matters. Go ahead.
Give me something.
Maybe that's the right. For recognition right there. So a few council members and I had been discussing the possibility, CMLs, obviously, because most everyone knows, or has been mentioned previously, there is a lot of events scheduled for the evenings. But Thursday night, there is a gap and we were talking about the potential of doing a dinner. Gravity has been thrown around. I have checked with the restaurant staff and there's availability if there's something that interested the group. We could get a final reservation and if there was something they're interested in the group.
And to be clear, this one is on your own dime. He's not offering.
Oh,
You're welcome.
So what do you think?
Is it at the cast reception or is that tomorrow?
There's nothing there.
It's going to Councilwoman Kirk, who has the details.
Cast is on Thursday, 5:30 to,
Yes, but that is only, so cast is only, light, a light affair. And then, there's no, full dinner.
And so you're buying.
This would be a 7 o'clock type thing.
The home builders reception, if you want to stay the whole 3 hours, it's 4 to 7, so.
There's alternative receptions, but no, full dinner options.
And you'll need something to sell them.
So what's your request?
To get a rough idea if we'd be interested in joining around 7 p.m. on Thursday.
Yes.
I 4, 5, 6.
But I can maybe have my answer.
I got meetings for.
Perfect, so I see six.
Well, I don't know if I'll get back over. I don't know.
Well, I tell your staff, the staff to be flexible. It's at least six, but it could be 8 or 10.
We'll plan on six with the understanding that there might be.
Good idea. Is there any other business?
Just for clarity, is that, plus ones or no? Okay.
Sure.
Sure.
Well, what's everyone else doing?
That's sick.
Obviously.
Oh, okay, girl. Probably more than mine.
Did you say that?
I don't know if they're, yeah.
That's all the matters. So, given that, we have no other business scheduled on the agenda, and, then I have a motion to adjourn.
So,
I move second. Second. Move to second, and all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried, we're adjourned.